Listen, I need to tell you something about Madison Brown that's been eating at me. And honestly, after watching what went down in the Sister Wives Season 20 premiere, I can't stay quiet anymore. You know what's absolutely gutting? Watching a daughter publicly break down over her father's absence while that same father sits there compartmentalizing his heartbreak like he's organizing a junk drawer. But here's the thing that nobody's really talking about. The detail that makes this whole situation 10 times more complicated than you think. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to see the Brown family drama in a completely different light. So, Madison Brown, Janelle and Cody's daughter, just ripped open old wounds on national television. And the raw emotion in her confession is something I genuinely wasn't prepared for. She sat there, tears streaming, saying she wants her dad to show up, she wants reconciliation, and in the same breath admitted she's still learning how not be disappointed by him. Now pause right there, because that sentence alone tells you everything about growing up in a polygamist family where your father's attention gets divided between 4 wives and 18 children. But wait until you hear what she said next, because it gets so much deeper. Madison confessed she's angry, genuinely angry, and she knows she played a part in their fractured relationship, but she's still trying to learn how to just see Cody for who he actually is instead of who she desperately wanted him to be. And here's where my heart absolutely shattered for her. She compared herself to her sibling Leon and said Leon's already come to peace with their dad's failures while she's still struggling to accept the reality, still fighting against the disappointment that keeps crushing her every single time Cody proves he's exactly who he's always been. But before you pick a side here, let me tell you what led to this moment, because the backstory is absolutely essential to understanding why Madison's pain runs this deep. Last November, nearly a year before this emotional premiere, Madison had publicly confirmed something that shocked absolutely nobody who'd been paying attention. She'd cut off contact with her father completely. Now, I know what you're thinking. Family estrangements happen all the time, but Madison's reasoning was specific and it was damning. She said Cody had zero boundaries in their fractured family dynamic. Think about that for a second. This is a man who built his entire identity around being the patriarch of a massive plural family, and his own daughter is saying he couldn't maintain basic emotional boundaries when everything started falling apart. But here's the timeline that makes this even more painful. Madison made this decision 2 full years after her mom, Janelle, officially separated from Cody in 2022, which means she gave him 2 years to figure out how to be a present father despite the family implosion. 2 years to show up for his kids even though his marriages were crumbling. And he apparently failed so spectacularly that his daughter decided cutting him off entirely was healthier than maintaining contact. And honestly, having watched this family's journey for years now, I can't say I'm surprised. But I am disappointed, because Cody had every opportunity to prioritize his children during the divorce chaos, and he chose differently. Now here's where the story takes a turn that's going to make you see Cody in a different way, whether you want to or not. During that same season 20 premiere, Cody actually opened up about his own pain. And look, I'm not here to defend him, because his actions speak way louder than his words ever could. But his confession did reveal something important about his mental state. He admitted, and I'm paraphrasing here, that he's literally just compartmentalized the heartbreak because he doesn't know what else to do with it. This is a man who went from having 4 wives, a massive family unit, and an entire television show documenting his supposedly successful plural marriage to being married to just Robin, while 3 other women walked away and took their children's trust with them. He said he would love healing with every single person, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and of course, all of his children. And honestly, on paper, that sounds reasonable, right? But then he said something that made me actually yell at my screen. He claimed this healing can only happen on their terms only, as if he's the victim waiting patiently for his ex-wives and estranged children to come crawling back. And that right there, that victim mentality, is exactly why Madison and so many of his other kids can't move forward with him. Because Cody still doesn't seem to understand that when you're the parent, when you're the one who made the choices that fractured the family, you don't get to sit back and wait for everyone else to meet you on your terms. But wait, because there's a layer to this that involves the other kids, and you need to hear how many people Cody has actually lost in this family explosion. Cody Brown isn't just Madison's dad. He's father to 17 other children spanning 4 different 3 ex-wives and Robin, who's still hanging on.
Between Robin and his 3 exes, Mary, Janelle, and Christine, he created this massive family structure that was supposed to prove plural marriage could work, that love could multiply instead of divide. And now that whole experiment has crashed and burned so dramatically that multiple of his adult children want nothing to do with him. Madison isn't alone in her estrangement. Several of Christine's kids have been vocal about their fractured relationships with Kody, and from what we've seen, Janelle's other children aren't exactly rushing to spend quality time with their dad either. So when Kody sits there talking about wanting healing with all of his children, he's talking about reconnecting with a significant portion of 18 human beings who've decided he's not worth the emotional energy. And that should tell you something profound about the kind of father he actually was when these kids were growing up. Now here's what really gets me about this situation, and it's something I think people overlook when they watch these reality TV family implosions. Madison's struggle isn't just about having an absent or disappointing father. It's about reconciling the father she needed with the father she actually got while cameras documented every failure for public consumption. She said something in that premiere that absolutely destroyed me. She's trying to understand that maybe Kody didn't know how to show up, and maybe he's hurting too. Can we just acknowledge how emotionally mature that is? This young woman is sitting there, actively hurt and angry, and she's still trying to have compassion for the man who let her down repeatedly. She's doing the emotional work that, frankly, Kody should have been doing years ago, trying to see things from his perspective, trying to understand his limitations as a father, trying to give him grace he probably doesn't deserve. And she's doing all of this while admitting she's still learning how to manage her disappointment, which means every single interaction with her father, or even thoughts about him, still trigger that deep wound of unmet expectations. But here's the kicker that nobody's really discussing, and it's about the unique damage polygamy does to father-child relationships. When you're one of 18 children, and your father is splitting his time between 4 different households, you grow up understanding on some level that you're never going to be the priority, right? The math alone guarantees it. But what Madison and her siblings experienced was even more complicated because they watched their father play favorites in real time. They saw him choose Robin's kids over theirs. They witnessed him spending more time, energy, and emotional resources on one household while theirs got the scraps. Christine's kids have talked about this, how toward the end, Kody was basically only showing up for Robin's family while everyone else got the bare minimum. So Madison grew up in this environment where love was supposed to multiply, but instead it got rationed. And the ration she received wasn't enough to sustain a healthy father-daughter relationship. Now she's an adult trying to process all of that childhood disappointment while her father publicly claims he wants healing, but refuses to take accountability for why that healing is necessary in the first place. And this is where I have to inject my own opinion, because I've been following this family story for years now, and the pattern is impossible to ignore. Cody Brown is a man who fundamentally misunderstands what it means to be a father in a plural family, and I genuinely believe he thought the structure itself would do the heavy lifting of parenting for him. He assumed that having multiple mother figures, a gaggle of siblings, and this communal living situation that looked chaotic but functional, and he was catastrophically wrong. Good parenting requires presence, consistency, and making your children feel chosen and valued. And you simply cannot do that when you're rotating between 4 houses trying to keep 4 wives happy while 18 kids watch you prioritize some siblings over others. Madison's pain isn't unique to her. It's the inevitable result of a family system that asked way too much of everyone, involved while the patriarch refused to acknowledge the cracks forming in the foundation. And now that the whole thing has collapsed, Kody wants to play the victim, wants to act like his ex-wives and estranged children are being unreasonable by setting boundaries and protecting their peace. But here's what he's missing, and it's so obvious it's almost painful. Healing doesn't happen on anyone's terms exclusively. It happens when both parties take accountability, do the work, and meet somewhere in the middle. Madison said she knows she played a part in their fractured relationship. She's taking ownership of her side, even through her anger and disappointment. But what has Kody owned? What has he actually apologized for beyond these vague statements about wanting healing? From what we've seen, he spent more time deflecting blame, playing victim, and waiting for everyone else to come around than he has actually examining his own failures as a husband and father. And that's why Madison is still struggling while Leon has found peace. Because peace comes from acceptance, from looking at someone clearly and saying, okay, this is who you are. This is all you're capable of giving me. And I'm going to adjust my expectations accordingly. Leon got there. Leon did that emotional work and moved on. But Madison is still in the thick of it, still fighting against her own hope that maybe her dad will suddenly become the father she needed all along, still getting angry because that hope keeps getting crushed. And honestly, watching her work through this on national television is both brave and heartbreaking because she's doing something a lot of people never manage. She's being radically honest about the messy reality of family estrangement. You know what struck me most about Madison's confession? It was the specificity of her pain. The way she articulated wanting her dad to show up, not just physically but emotionally, not just in the big moments but in the consistent everyday ways that build trust and security. And the fact that she's still trying, still working to see Kody clearly and manage her disappointment tells me she hasn't completely closed the door on their relationship even though she's cut off contact. There's a difference between cutting someone off because you hate them and cutting someone off because maintaining contact is too painful when they refuse to change, and Madison is clearly in the latter category. She's protecting